Hey everybody, how is it going today? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about the EV sector. The EV sector as a whole is starting to look pretty strong, and I got two here that I bet you're not looking at that I think are looking very nice. So in this video, I want to get into their charts, and then after that, I'm going to get into one of your questions. All right, well, the first stock I want to talk about is one I thought would never come across my buy list ever again, and that stock, of course, is NKLA. And right here I have NKLA's daily chart up, and man, I remember this thing went on that huge run last year. This thing went on this climax run here in June, and if you are ever lucky enough to get in a stock that goes on one of these climax runs, you got to look to get out. I know it feels really good to hold on to these when they are going straight up, but so many stocks that go on these big parabolic moves, if you check them, like a year later, they almost always end up looking like train wrecks, just like NKLA. I know NKLA was surrounded in controversy, but even stocks that are not surrounded in controversy, that are still super good companies, end up going on a crash and burn after a run like this. It's just not a sustainable run. But if you are ever lucky enough to get in a stock that is making a huge climax run like this, one thing I like to do is put my trailing stop underneath this white line, and this white line is the 8-period exponential moving average. If you do that, then you're going to be able to capture most of the run. This is a trailing indicator, so obviously you're not going to be able to call the top. You're going to have to, have some extremely lucky guesswork in order to call a top, but you would have been able to get out right about here. I like to get out on a close below that 8-period exponential moving average, so you probably would have got out, see if I can get that over here. There we go. Probably would have got out right around $64 a share. So you'd have captured most of the run, which if you would have got in way down here, obviously you wouldn't be complaining with getting out at 64, especially if you check it, 12 months later and it's trading right around 12 bucks. But let's get into this current price action. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. As we can see, NKLA is in a nice little creeping uptrend, and what you're looking for here is a breakout and a hold of the recent ceiling. If you get a breakout and a hold of that recent ceiling, there is a strong possibility you could be going on a trend. You're getting into the trend acceleration phase, and I think that's what we're potentially getting into with NKLA. I think the next stop is probably this 200-period simple moving average right around $14.23 or so. So I will definitely be watching NKLA a little bit closer for an entry. Actually, let me back up just a little bit here. And if we look at the move that it made back here in May, it was actually quite a similar move. You had the peak, then a pullback, another peak, and then a pullback into that consolidation range, and then it went on its trend acceleration phase where it started to go up, at a much steeper pace. And I think that's what we could be potentially getting into right now with NKLA. Well, let's go to that 15-minute chart, show you a little bit more of what I am looking at. Let me back it out as far as I can so we can get a closer look at this creeping uptrend. We got the peak, the pullback, the peak above it, and then we had a little bit of a move up, and this started to form a rounded bottom formation, and now we are getting that breakout. So we have this clear-cut resistance here area right around $11.80. We've already had one false breakout, and if I zoom in a little bit closer, this is when I really start to get interested in the stock, once it's making this formation and then it gets really tight up against the resistance area. As we can see, it was making a nice little triangle consolidation, putting pressure on that resistance area. You can just see the pressure starting to build up. Now, if I see this happening on, say, a Wednesday or a Thursday, and that stock happens to have options, weekly options that are expiring that Friday, I really like to buy calls out of the money, and that way if you get this breakout, those calls can pay off very nicely. Today is a Monday, so I actually do have an order in to buy some calls, the $13 call right around 50 cents. I don't think they've been hit just yet, but if those don't get hit, I'll be looking to get out on a breakout of this pennant right here. We got this little bullish pennant consolidation formation. Once these happen right after a rounded bottom breakout, I think they have a pretty good possibility of continuing higher, so I like to enter on those. Sometimes if these pull back down to this support area, I like to enter here as well because it's very close to that support area, and if it does end up breaking that support area, I don't have to risk a lot of money. So if I buy here, say around 1180, if it breaks down below 1150, that's probably a sign that it's not going to be this is not going to be a sustainable breakout, so my risk is very small. But what I would rather like to get in is a break to the upside of this pennant and try to catch that potential trend acceleration up into that 200 period simple moving average or beyond. But I think NKLA is looking very good right here. I never thought I would say that again, but hey, the chart doesn't lie. This thing definitely looks like it's under accumulation for the short term. I'm not going to be marrying this stock. I don't want to hold this thing for the long term. This is a wham bam, thank you ma'am, that is it. But I just think NKLA is looking really nice. Let's get into the next one. And that next one is Lordstown Motors Corporation, ticker symbol RIDE. And just like NKLA, this thing has been in a long, grueling downtrend for a while. This thing back in February topped out right around 3150. And if we take that all the way down to the low of a few days ago, we can see this thing is off 85%. So if anybody's been in this since February, man, that has been painful to sit through. Good news is I think it's starting to turn around. I don't know if it's going to get all the way back up there to 30. Hopefully it does for you if you're in it. But I do think that in the short term, this thing is potentially starting to turn around. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. I'll show you what I'm seeing. Once you see a sharp move down like this, and then it kind of starts to find a bottom, butts its head up against that 8-period exponential moving average and just kind of rides it down a little bit and doesn't make a new low and then pops back above it and holds, you need to take a look underneath the hood, no pun intended. I know these are EV stocks, but take a look on the intraday charts and see if you can find a clear-cut resistance area that's potentially breaking through. And if it does end up breaking through a resistance area, we could have a move up, and this thing looks like it is just about ready to stop me in, actually. Probably going to stop me in as I'm making this video, but I'll get to that in a minute. But if we go to the 15-minute chart and take a look at this trend, you know, a lot of people like to use the hourly chart. A lot of people like to use the 5-minute chart when they try to look intraday to see how the trend is shaping up. I personally like to use the 15-minute chart just because when I use the 5-minute chart, I tend to get whipsawed a little bit more, and if I use the hourly chart, I tend to end up, you know, being a little bit late for my liking. You know, the move tends to take off a little bit without me, and I'm kind of a swing trader for the most part, so I like to catch moves that last 2-3 days, you know, maybe a week or so at the most. And if I'm using the hourly chart, sometimes I can miss a pretty decent chunk of that initial part of the move. But looking at the 15-minute chart on Lordstown Motors, you can see this very nice rounded bottom formation, a well-defined ceiling. See if I can draw it on here. Takes a second. You know, right around $5.30 to about $5.35. If we zoom in just a little bit, we can see this a little bit better. And once you get a pattern like this, what you want to do is wait for a breakout and a hold, because if you do get that, there's a very good possibility you're going to get a sustainable move and you're going to be catching the beginning part of it. And so we got a nice breakout going on right now, and I actually have a buy stop in to get some at $5.61. So I think I might be stopped in. I had a nice little bullish flag or bullish pennant drawn on this earlier, so I wanted to get in on a breakout of that. Now, if you want to wait for it to pull back to support, you know, sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. That's a safer spot to get in. I like to either buy down there or buy on a breakout of this bullish pennant formation. So it looks like I am probably in. I haven't gotten an alert just yet. But Lordstown Motor is looking super good. Absolutely love this pattern. There was actually several other stocks in the EV sector that were looking really good as well. But I wanted to show you RIDE and NKLA because those are the ones, the pattern that I am liking the absolute best. But I like it when an entire sector is really starting to make bullish formations, because when you get a whole sector that's doing that, the breakouts tend to be more sustainable. But that's what I wanted to show you on those two. Let's get into a question. And that question is from Josh, our newest Patreon. So welcome aboard, Josh. And by the way, I do have a Patreon group, and the link is down there in the description. So if you do want to know what we are buying and selling in real time, that is only $10 a month. And since I'm on the subject of personal plugs, if you don't mind liking the smash button, it really helps out the YouTube channel with the algorithm, so I am told. So if you do that, I would really appreciate it. But getting back on the subject here, Josh is talking about OBSV. He mentioned that it does have some big catalysts coming up. I didn't get a chance to really look into it, so I'm just going to look at it as a technical perspective. But Josh, if you know, or if you have an idea that there's some big news coming up, you're probably not going to be looking at this on a technical basis. You probably want to be holding this for longer. And these areas aren't going to mean that much, because when I'm in a stock that I want to hold for the long term, I'm not so caught up on support and resistance. I just want to be accumulating the stock when it is pulling back. And OBSV is definitely pulling back, and it's pulling back into a pretty strong resistance area right at the moment, right around $2.50. And it's getting pretty congested in here. It's starting to tighten up, and it's not breaking down below this $2.54 area. So I would be a bit surprised if it finds some more support here and has another bounce up. I wouldn't be shocked if this thing started to work its way back up to this 200 period simple moving average right around $3.10. That's a pretty decent trade from here. I would like to see it, confirm that breakout with a nice strong green candle right here. So I'm definitely going to keep this on my watch list if we do get that breakout. But just moving back out of the chart a little bit more, we can definitely see how important this $2.50 area has been in the past. It did have a break below it for a few months late last year before we had that explosion up over it. Now it has slowly pulled back down into it, but over the last 6 or 7 months or so, someone or someones has been stepping in and supporting this stock. So that is very important to be noticing when you're looking at a stock that has been moving sideways. And when it's moving sideways, it's under accumulation. Somebody has a range that they want to accumulate the stock at, and when it starts to move away from it, then they kind of, lay off on their buying a little bit. And that's what I like to do. When I have a stock that I want to hold for the long term, if it gets down to a certain area, I like to buy it. And once it starts to take off from that area, I pull back on my buy orders. So we're just seeing probably a big player doing the same thing with OBSV. I'm going to have to look into this one a little bit further. But if you're into this thing for the long term, you're not, like I said, you're not so hung up on these support and resistance areas. But just grabbing this little rectangle, moving it forward to what we got going on, you could definitely see that this thing is in a pretty tight consolidation, going from 250 all the way up to about $3.30. So I mean, this is a pretty nice consolidation range that it's been in for the last 7 months or so. So if you get a break out of this range, I would definitely be interested in taking a position in the stock, just because it's been going sideways for so long, and it's definitely been under accumulation. You can definitely see the big green bars here. That means that there's certain days when somebody is coming in and buying a lot of the stock. So a couple different things going on with OBSV. Number one, it's at support at $2.50, which is a good thing. So this could lead to a potential trade for me right here. And if we get a break above us, I'll call it $3.35. I think, if it gets a break above that range, we could be, on its way up to challenge this old high right around, $5.50 or so. Okay, everyone, that is all I have for this video, so I'm going to end it right there. But if you have any questions or comments on any of these stocks, or if you have any other ones you want me to take a look at, please leave it down there in the comments section. I will get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, take care, everybody.